Sheerlee here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Moon Hour, and the moon is 11 degree Aquarius, midheaven 17 degrees Cancer, applying to Jupiter 24 degrees Cancer, and ascendant applying to Venus. Okay, I began to talk about sadness stories and elections, and many people have noticed the calling to not vote in various countries. Now, one could ask, how did they manage to undermine democracy? And the reason is very simple. Anything that is of the feminine, providing for those who don't have, making sure no one stays homeless, making sure everybody has enough food, clothing, what even the right wing in even Israel called the five memes. Okay, education, housing, food, clothing, yes, and with a basic income, okay, welfare. And that came from the right wing, from the right liberal economy wing, because they understood that when people want a country to actually sustain, okay, that was in the early days of Israel, when they want a country to country, they need to provide. It's when they want a country to not country that they don't. And undermining democracy was as simple as not providing for yin. I'm not even talking femicide. Femicide in Netherlands is something we are running into in the late decades. Woke got woke when they provided dividends for the women that stayed at home when their husbands were going on an expedition with 45% of chances to come back. And unfortunately, funding for women always comes. Okay, women getting the right to vote always come at the expense of like men dying, and also the women that resisted women having rights dying. And that shouldn't be, okay? Yet we see that if it takes men to die for women to have rights, men will die, and also the women that oppose women having rights will die. It's not a card that we can flip on, oh, it's those people from that origin, when it's being done in the elite sectors to the commoners and to the elite, when the elite sectors are traffickers. Okay, which is why I didn't vote Pay Fei Fei, because taking out all those people would only leave border control that is life risking for women that come to Netherlands, and what happens within Netherlands currently is not safe. And when we talk about ritual abuse, it's not that several people decided for whatever reason that they want to torture babies. It's an extortion called structure that is supposed to be built in a way that the premier of every country and the jurisdiction, the top jurisdiction of every country, and the top intelligence of every country, and the committees that are behind the lobbyers and the secret societies, namely from Illuminati to Skulls and Bones, need to have the tapes of everyone raping children so that they can, use that. Just like in Netherlands, some people pull the Deming card. Oh, Deming. Well, Deming is one study case. We can't even say allegedly. We have testimonies, and okay, and way too taxi drivers missing. Okay, we can't even say allegedly, but just like Dutroux, Deming is one link in a megalithic chain. Okay, if he's the person inside the juristic system, then who needs him? Okay, who needs him to have that? Who needs him? Okay, to be in that position? If Deming was Dutroux, who would if he would also be a tiny link, it's like a fractal, tiny link in a megalithic chain. Okay, so of course any prime minister in that structure operates by this rule. That is not representative of yin, the children that have nothing. Okay, both on the side that that premier or that Supreme Court judge or that president would be, or that secret society member would be the person that was tortured since infancy to have these supposedly inclinations. Okay, a person is not born sadistic. And from the side of the child, they could not do anything. All of those is yin. And undermining a democratic election is the simple art of undermining yin and making people believe that the sky punishes the land. Now that we are before winter, it's relevant. And there is war. And there is war. So, and this is something that shows us that no form of regime is sustainable. If it's the aristocracy, it's going plague. It's not just doing Gates plague, but actually dying from the plague. And by the way, the people that were more susceptible to actually catching COVID were the targeted people. And those that were inbred or cloned and tortured have a more sensitive immune system. Now we're talking bioweapon here with the eighth house of NATO is also the house of death, and for Virgo ascendant it's the eighth house. So have to be cautious with military operations, exactly. So speaking to the heart of Virgo, diseases. It could also harm a Virgo ascendant. So um and and what the other things that are creating division, well, who are the people at the generation that they will soon, I'm 41 and I have now Saturn in my first house. I walk a couple of meters. I need to sit myself down. And drink those apple, those those smashed apple thingies that babies drink to give me some ability to move forward. And even the people, and again, and I'm the type of person that needs to go here, to go there, you know. Now, when even the notion of even the people is yin, so the expectation that the people will be at the service. Even JFK had this ill disease where he talked about don't ask what the country did for you, because that would be targeting individuals by classified projects, and then selling those individuals to Russia, supposedly under the guise of preventing a world war. It's for the elite. And then he got assassinated, and people were like, oh, but he knocked the Berlin Wall down. Yeah, yeah. Some people say deep state will deep state, and he got slacked for it. But perhaps they were going for an even bigger dumbfuckery. Um, so now the Jupiter is proceeding on the midheaven of Israel. It's still a favorable planet. It's a good planet. It's it's just don't traffic people to Trump to be favored by Trump planet. That can backfire. Um, that's all. It like just with the rest of that, it's a good planet. Um, Bloodletting rituals can cause blood diseases. Um, and so, if the lobbyers got the democratic regime to, it doesn't matter who is elected, who are the people complaining about? The government? No. The people that are complaining about the government, it's not a problem. They are going to be depopulated in a false flag easy, because they are the people that see a woman that says no and think, oh, she thinks too much of herself. No one is good for her. Yeah, well, how about your sexless marriage? It's not sexless. He goes to the he rapes a working lady, and you just let him rape a working lady. And what about that working lady? Wouldn't she want, like, your. Oh, she gets money. No, it's not about money. It's about the rape of the soul of trafficked people so that your marriage will be sexless, so that you wouldn't have to share a common interest with women that could actually do something about the rapists. And when a woman says, no, if I go to work, I'm not a working lady. Those attempts to traffic me in academia, at workplaces, that's crimes against humanity. And how am I going to have a partner or marry in such world or setting? And the only compatible partner is the one that does something about that. And when nations use those things to fund their regimes, we understand. Think about the Opium War. Yet America got half of China addicted to opium. The greatest, our founding fathers were drug dealers. And um, and the drug lords, what was this opium used? Well, they forbade it for the use of Americans on paper, but it was used in extortion called to torture children here and there. It was not a recreational drug. To buy, okay, if America made so much money so as to found America, we understand they weren't just giving that to the people who didn't have money to pay. It wasn't a fentanyl boom kind of thing. Now, when we undermine democracy, it is undermined for everyone. And it starts with no representation for the feminine, not even for women, for the feminine. Because women that had to torture babies to go up the rank of the extortion cult and then say they're feminist is not really representation. They're not representing women's rights. They're not representing the right of a woman to be sexually sovereign. The only time it was close to happening was when Pluto was in Libra. Then the people, okay, the women of Iceland, all made a bed strike. Then they got representation in the parliament. But now, when they think to equate equate the salary of women to men, all they can do is strike, which basically means that women don't go to work, which basically was the end game. But what if those women bomb the workplaces and knock down the economy that's not representing of them? They would have to also caretake for the women that can't work and the men that can't work, to have housing, to have, okay, anything that wants to replace the government will only sustain if it actually caretakes for the people, not by making them disabled and then providing something that is under the guise of care to keep them that way. So in Netherlands, the elections were supposedly successfully castrated. And what happens when young boys, even from elite, are castrated to control when will their sperms taken from them, then they are castrated and enslaved under free something. Then elections are efficiently castrated. Now, this is going to happen in a lot of countries. I know, Gates, castration. Yes, yes, what can I do? 444 as I speak. I can say, what is the point of interference? Those rituals are done on real estates and the natural resources of real estate. When something, what is economy? Okay, economy essentially is resources, whether it's rare earth minerals or okay or whatever. Then, if we harm the natural resources, then we harm the economy, and there are no benefactors from that. Whether it's the rare genetic diseases of the Rothschilds to the fall of the Aztecs and the Mayans. There's a reason why the Chinese said that if an emperor is being assassinated, they simply lost mandate of the heaven. Wait, it's getting okay. I'm talking about an emperor, not a prime minister or a president, because we are talking about the hidden decision makers. Okay, Trump wasn't accepted into Aspen, so he became a president. He became one of the visibles and tried to create whatever from there. But you know, when a person tries to appease the Nazi cults, basically, he's not distincting himself from Aspen, which, by the way, he could do, but not with real estate projects that slaughter the many. And yet, we have to ask, how did those many treat women? But also, when the interface with the Epsteins is that megalithic, okay, and again, I'm not saying I know how to do real estate better. I'm just saying that this thing doesn't sustain an economy. Now, what if we ask yourself, what would be the biggest blessing for the child Epstein or the child Dutroux? It would be that they wouldn't be able to hold an estate as an adult if they would perform rituals on it that are trafficky, that are bringing in the lower astral to predate on the light. That would free that link called Dutroux, called Epstein, called Puff Daddy from the chain called those who need someone whose name is written on the estate. They don't owe effectively the estate. They're not a decision maker over the estate. In fact, if tomorrow they wanted to say, well, Epstein Island is free of ritual abuse, they would be replaced by another link in that chain. Now, it affects all of our housing. I lived in an estate where rituals done in it, and it is heartbreaking because the location was amazing, the price of the unit was okay. Um, there was a small unused plot of land where I could grow things, and that was to balance my nervous system. Like all the conditions were there. It wasn't a fancy mansion, but it was definitely a place that was livable and doable. Okay, perhaps with some, renovations to sustain, okay, to sustain life. But when rituals are done on an estate, it's the people, it's their pets, it's their, okay, it's the ability to have domestic life that is harmonious. And even when they build new project, when they do those rituals to, okay, to incarnate the projects, then it means that many people, they may be able to own a tiny house and a tiny plot of land. That idea is fantastic, but the rituals that are done so that they will not have happy life there. And when those things are still happening, it undermines entire society. And no act of liberation that doesn't retrieve sexual sovereignty for the yin, for the feminine, whether it's women or the people that can't afford a $7,000 jammer military grade that could interfere with planes and other things that are, and is not even legal in all countries, to block their own public money used by classified project to target them, then anything that doesn't anything that does that doesn't have a right to exist. Anything that targets individuals in those ways doesn't have a right to exist. And undermining yin essentially is not economic. Go look at the ghost cities in China. They're ghost cities. And China has enough land. You know what happens when a person can't talk about something? Either they overeat and then they try to buy more and more healthy food so the money runs out, or they need to do something meaningful, they need to travel, they need to do, then what happens when a person can't talk about their regime? The regime falls down. And the regime, no matter how surveillant, people is a masses of data. If they have to have a red light every time somebody's thinking something bad about the government that has worldly surveillance, the entire universe would go code red. And when that is silenced with opium, it's not okay. Again, harming yin is not economic. It it knocks down empires. And now the empire that did that and funded itself on that has a certain, as long as people could travel outside of the United States and live somehow okay, even black Americans are running to Thailand. There's, now, when that's not possible, because United States and other countries economic hitmen the other countries, and they're using the taxes that money to surveil and target, then everybody worldly has to do something. Now, it's illegal to be homeless in the United States. It's also illegal to park an RV on one's own land. It's not illegal to collide with an RV into the White House. Apparently, because it happened. There's no law passed against that. There are many RVs in United States. All it takes is a couple of solar panels to fund the revolution against oil and gas. Let the sun shine. We are before dawn. Let's see what's happening with the balloon. The balloon that closed the airport. So there's I read the name NATO and Iraq in the same title. The last time it happened was around this fall of the Soviet Union, the 1991. So that's like keeping the oil in Iraq in NATO's hands and the minerals. By the way, there are a lot of people with psychic powers in Iraq, and but again, how were women treated? Okay, not only the women that partook in, okay, but the women that didn't, is how Iraq was treated, essentially. You have to understand that behind every such design, there are attempts to have spiritual considerations and karmic ramifications taken into conclusion. There's so much. Why is there so much investment in unity and spiritual welfare to try to create a one world religion? Here, because the spiritual facet matters. You can infiltrate through the 12th house. Whatever is in the 12th house is the zone that can be infiltrated. What's not there cannot be infiltrated. 12th house for NATO is Leo. That's the monarchies. NATO can be infiltrated through the monarchies that run the secret societies, okay, that run the governments that provide the public money for classified projects. And when those classified projects are funneled to military operations, it gates and the gate collapse. And then people are like, okay, what to do now? One thing is to address the lack of economicity of classified projects to provide for actual military operation. Now, when the entire organization exists since the Gladio to economic hitman, this is a problem, that's one, but the rules and the guise under which that organization exists enforced, okay, will defend those in its head. Think about reiterating Security Council 1325. That's the gun placed at the second act, because at the seventh act that gun will refuse to shoot to protect the sex offenders. And as pragmatically as possible, that thing is actually supportive. Okay, those are the things that stand in the favor of, and a lot of people don't know that, but within that military operation there were a lot of apologies, and a lot of those apologies were that people are not in death and concentration camps yet. Whether it's pragmatically because people thought that, oh, it wouldn't work, we need to be patient, we need to wait, we need to play the long game, or for whichever reason, but the end result, yeah, have, we have a visitor. Hello. Yes, she can. So, recording. Anyway, it's 5:02 and the cat's wandering. So, the only thing to do about that is to undermine the undermining. And one would have to do that with themselves as well. I'm recording. Recording. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm freaking recording. And the only way to undermine the undermining is use the very things that were meant to enslave people to liberate them. Because at the end of the day, who is about to go to jail when those class litigations, and the class litigations, they don't come from we the people, they come from the competitors on the positions. That means that they're going to be effective. That means that they're going to actually put people in prison to change the conditions of the prisons. So if the end game is to change the condition of imprisonment and hospitalization and homelessness and exile, okay, then why not have it, why not do that from the beginning? Because at the end of the day, the people that are the homeless, the people that are, within hospitals, the people that are incarcerated, those people, at the end of the day, to meet the right, everybody kind of like meets that one way or another. And the simple notion when we all meet that is at the bedroom where we go to sleep at night. When we harm yin, we harm our sleep, we harm our dream state, because the classified project is used to target people in their dream state. Though, and it's funded from the classified project. When we harm people in the bedroom, when the entire world collapses, no one is exempt from that collapse. And that goes to jails and hospitals. That goes to the hidden invasion. What's the hidden invasion of NATO monarchy? Why? Because NATO capitalizes on the skulls and bones knocking down regimes. That's why the Gen Zers have the skulls and bones. Doesn't matter what it means to them, to the skulls and bones that fund that and lobby for that and infiltrate to knock down elections for that. It means, with other things. And when that happens, okay, nobody is going to hail the rapey. It doesn't matter if it's a leader of revolution or not. If nobody's going to hail the rapist. The only people that will are the people that are going to kill him later. I'm recording! Recording! Don't make me mad! I don't care! Stop! Why? Krasi was right. This week is an attention week. I had to set that boundary. But something so simple. But this is the thing, that the entire economy collapses. It takes with it the people that thought to benefit from that collapse. And the people that thought that they are immune to that, we are at the times where the Rothschild mentions, okay, when Rothschild had to flee Europe. Everything that improves upon the situation of the people in the 12th house, which means yin, which means women and the feminine, not the women that are also into raping, but actual, okay, it means boys, it means all of these, all of these trajectories, whether it's in a hospital, whether it's in jail, whether it's in a bedroom, whether it's a homeless person. That prevents invasion. Promising men that they will have women in the army, as happens with the US military, that creates invasion. It's very good for those who want to undermine United States to extinction, and NATO along with it. Because all of these leaders that try to be favored by United States are basically setting themselves up to collapse with it. And if they adopt the strategies of the United States, okay, they're doing that even if they sustain the US collapse. Doesn't work, okay? The slavery mindset doesn't work. It doesn't, it's a part of the, it's like if I see people that are, oh, this person, they didn't go to the army, and that didn't, why don't you both sit yourself down and think who benefits from those wars and target in your anger and boundary setting those people? It's the same with leaders sometimes. At the end of the day, Joseph Stalin did not have a doctor. And I don't know why he did not have a doctor. Is it because he did Gates ship that he did not have a doctor? Or is it because he was trying to prevent Gates ship? Like, I really don't know which of them it was. But in the first case, he would really not have a doctor. In the second case, he would at least know how to treat himself. All those power games of, you know, creating lacks and shortages around the medicines to do with facilitating easier birth, okay, or calming anxiety for people in trauma, to sustain the pharmaceutical industry by perpetuating trauma. They don't save the pharmaceutical industries. It takes one risperidone scandal away for Teva Pharmaceutic to collapse, like even the Palestinian topic didn't manage to. And these are solid pillars of the civils of a nation that have their investment in that and expect that to yield war, peace, whatnot. Now, the support can come from actually honoring and supporting women, not with expecting something of them, not with trying to traffic them, but with saying, hey, in my generation, whether you're 60 or 40, obst du 6 bis oder 100, okay, saying this thing stops now. Say no to Nazi, it's not just the German, it's the occult that inspired Hitler, but they also, with paperclip, inspired Gladio. Getting monarchies addicted to torturing children was one dumb move. And this is the 12th house for NATO. The 12th house for NATO is the leaders. What is that chart again? Sun in the 8th house is the generals, but particularly it's the oil giants' role in the funding of NATO. Same problems that Hamas had. Okay, Pluto Leo. Saturn is 29 in the 12th house, and this is a day chart, so it's supposed to be somewhat protective. But Pluto Leo is oil giants. 8th house is funding. It can also be secret monarchies, which MK Ultra Monarch. That's the secret monarchy. That's what they're programmed for, to do the mind control. Classified budget, classified project. Okay, Pluto classified, Sun in the 8th house budget. That's the enemy of NATO. NATO, now, when an organization, and this is taking a look, think about those businesses. No offense to pizzas and makeup industry. Those businesses that are formed as cover businesses, this is what it looks like. The hidden enemy is the reason that the business was founded. Now, what happens when we undermine democracy? There is monarchy. Okay, people revert to monarchy, feudalism. Okay, what happened? Feudalism, plague, monarchy, guillotine. the only type of regime when somebody can say, okay, they weren't voted, they didn't get to be prime minister, or they were no longer prime minister, and they go about their day riding their bicycles. Even the only place where a monarchy can ride its bicycles, okay, is democracy. Is when there is democracy, when the role of the monarch is not that, okay, when he's being held for the sake of diplomacy. Okay, because when you need to meet the oil giants from Saudi Arabia, and they have monarchies, and so you send the royal family. All the while having energy sovereignty from Russia and those very oil giants. And but the only way in which that can work is when there's actually democracy. When there isn't, it cannot work. And we see it. Chiron is next to Rahu. Chiron is next to Rahu of NATO. It's the wound around the funding of NATO's military operations, which is classified projects. Mars Aries, targeting individuals. Now, Mars is at home in Aries, but this is something that could undermine when, okay, when it's those, and what undermines the most is culture. Because it was a creation. How does NATO get its way? It creates certain cultures that rebel the government but don't actually rebel. and capitalizes on the changes of regime following that, so that they will give the 5% to NATO. Usually many drugs are involved. And and now Neptune in the 8th house. Neptune was in 2nd house, so basically Neptune is drugs. We can see the Gladio written in the chart if we look. And Chiron Rahu is a wound around where is NATO going, particularly regarding the funding. This is an organization that is supposed to maintain global individual security of men and women and LGBTQ and homeless and whatnot. That's the title. When the and here is also the point of interference. When that organization does not do that, it undermines itself. Eventually, where do the 5% go? To defend the people from the litigations, and to try to improve upon the possible condition of incarceration. What are those problems? The targeting individual, the classified projects. When women are not sexually sovereign, or the feminine, okay, then it brings downfall after downfall. There's nothing to keep something from actually collapsing. Including indigenous societies. That's why colonialism. Pluto only keeps something secret until the bubble pops. Okay, everybody's like, oh, Swiss bank, tax evasion. And then Swiss bank said to both the Nazis and the Jews, what money? Alternatively, here is the list of people that have a bank account in Swiss bank. Leumi Bank founder in Israel. Leumi Bank CEO in Israel. Yitzhak Rabin's spousey. Okay, when Yitzhak Rabin resigned from the government, because his spousey had. Okay, this is what, I know it's bad PR for Swiss Bank, but that's what they do. They've been doing that all around. There's no reason to expect that they will not do that. They will hide your money so good that even you will never be able to find it. Now, what does this money fund? Plenty of bunkers. And if those bunkers are smart bunkers, nothing prevents the smart bunkers from going Switzerland on those who think that they can use these bunkers. It's an AI system that tells you what bunker. And it already happened to billionaires. Unless you want to be sleeping around a rusty old A-bomb, which is kind of like your wife when you don't honor her sexual sovereignty.